So for today's video, I want to talk about safe takedowns that we can use for self-defense. Now, I love a good highlight reel takedown, right? Picking somebody up, just slamming them through the earth and just obliterating them on the concrete. But we have to understand that when it comes to self-defense in particular, I need to make sure that anything I do to whoever it is that's attacking me has to be warranted. And that includes takedowns. I can't just double leg blast somebody with, where there's a big risk of them smacking the head onto the concrete if it's not warranted. If it's something where weapons involved or my life's at stake and I just need to put a lot of damage, sure, I'm going to pick the person up, slam them down to the ground, and just let the earth and gravity do its job. So when we talk about safe takedowns, it has to be something that is safe for both me, meaning that I'm not going to accidentally injure myself or put myself into a bad position in the process of taking the person down, but it also needs to be safe for the person I am taking down to where I'm not risking them smacking their head. Do I care as much if they sprain a wrist or pop out a shoulder or something? Like, I should still be concerned about that to some extent, yes, but the primary focus for a safe takedown is ensuring that I'm not causing severe head damage and allowing their head to just smack on the concrete. Because we have to remember this. If I take somebody down, their head smacks onto the curb or onto the concrete, and they end up dying, I could be facing manslaughter charges. So if we're talking about which takedown should we use and which one shouldn't we use, I want to focus on takedowns in which I can control the speed at which this person hits the concrete. Double legs, stuff like that, where I'm slamming into the person and I'm letting gravity take over, I can't control. Sure, every once in a while, you might get a good one, but more times than not, they're going to slam, hit their head, and that's where we start falling into the unsafe category. So I'm going to show you three options. I'm sure there's others out there, but these three are ones that I tend to use most often, even in sport, right? The first one is going to be a split seatbelt position, and the other thing I'll add to this, size obviously is going to play a factor to some extent. These takedowns, however, help eliminate some of the size differential. If I'm going against a bigger person, it's going to be harder for me to pick them up and slam them, but when I'm using stuff that locks out their spine and I'm controlling the way that their body moves, it's easier for smaller people to hit these takedowns. So the first one is going to be this split seatbelt. I've got my hand coming across the front on the wrist. My hand is coming across his back. I can either grab the elbow or I can extend this arm all the way through. Either way, I'm locking out that spine. If I'm grabbing the arm, I'll tend to pull it nice and tight to my body. I want to make sure that I'm driving my head into him and I'm also driving my hips into him. This is what completely locks out the body. And then from here, he can't really get out of this position. He can't really do much. If this hand becomes an issue and he starts hooking my head, then I can always duck, work around to the back, and then we can feed into the second takedown that we'll show you. But if we're looking to finish the split seatbelt takedown, I'm literally just going to take my back leg and start walking around in a circle and pulling his elbow backwards. And as I do that, and I can go nice and slow, I can bring him down nicely all the way down to the ground. And then with this one in particular, which is why it's also one of my more favorite ones to use, I have the bottom arm completely locked out. So I'm already in a good position that if this was like a law enforcement situation, I could easily start cuffing him going from there. But I'm in full control from start to finish. One thing that I'll tend to throw in sometimes if I am dealing with a bigger person is I'll use this back knee a little bit to kind of buckle them just to knock their balance off a little bit more. Sometimes I'll buckle and actually step behind with my other knee. So now if they try and step back, it's also rocking their balance a little bit. But again, because I'm locking out their spine and I'm gluing my body to them, I can either step straight back and pull them down, or I can circle and we get them all the way down to the ground from there. Now, as I mentioned, whether I get to the person's back and I've just got my hands around their waist, or if I was going for this and I have to duck under, the other option that I tend to resort to when I get to the back, again, talking safe takedowns, I love reverse sweeps and reverse double legs and everything, but if we're talking safe, I like to do the double hip jerk. And so what I'll do is, even if I was holding onto his arm here, I'm going to release the arm, gable grip my hands, and shift it right over to the top of his hip bone. I want to make sure that I can feel the bone. Again, I'm driving that hand in, I'm pinching my elbows nice and tight. And now from here, this is going to be, I'm showing it as 2 steps. When you do this takedown, you're doing it as 2 steps, but I'm not really pausing in between each one. The first option, or the first idea, is that as I suck his hip in, I'm just stepping back and kind of buckling this hip a little bit. So if he's resisting, he's trying to, fight out of this, I step back and I buckle that hip. I'm giving gravity a little bit of play here to kind of rock his hips a little bit, but I'm controlling the upper part of his body. Now when I go to pull a second time, I pull his hips right down and I drive right in. So essentially what I'm doing is sitting him on his ass and then driving in to get him to fall down to his side. Whether I get to the back or I go off of the split seatbelt, my hands are going to be in the front. I want to make sure I shift them off to the side. My body's also going to shift at a bit of an angle as well so that I can really get a nice turn from here. I'm going to step, buckle, step again. Right away I can drive right in.
Now, one thing that you can do, if he's posted on his forearm or his hand when we land, I can feed through, drive in, and we can end up right back into that split seatbelt position once we hit the ground. So the other one that I'll do from the front is a foot sweep. I've actually been playing around with this one a lot when we do stand-up in general. Now in stand-up sometimes, especially in sport, I'll release the head, so when I sweep them, I'm letting them completely fall. However, if I want to do a foot sweep in a tactical setting where I'm trying to, again, have a safer takedown, I'm going to keep the head. Now, I will do this foot sweep off of the same side collar tie. So this is the side I'm going to attack. And ideally, this opposite hand is controlling the tricep or controlling the wrist. I want to have some control of this side of the arm. I'm not concerned about this arm here. Now, what I'm going to look to do is start kind of pulling him in this direction to get his weight to go this way. Or I'm going to drive into him so that when he resists and he pushes back into me, again, his weight is going in this direction. All I'm going to do for the foot sweep is kind of shuffle my feet. And as I shuffle, my near side leg is hooking behind his ankle. I'm kicking this leg through, pulling the head straight down, and I'm maintaining control of that head the entire time. So yes, I'm gonna land on top of him. He might post with his hand if he's got the opportunity to, so he might mess up his wrist a little bit. I don't care about that. I'm concerned about protecting his head. But I should be able to land in a good top position, and then from here, obviously we can go wherever we want. So again, I've got control, I'm pushing in, I'm driving. When I feel that weight shift, I'm gonna sweep, come right in, and we take control from there. All right, a bonus one for you is a body lock from the front. Now this could just be if we're in a fight and I just happen to lock my hands here and I don't want to shift off to the side, I can't work to the back, or somehow I'm just comfortable in this position, I can still apply a body lock and essentially just walk straight backwards and again, slowly take him down. Now, if I manage to get my hands up high in a double underhook, I want to drop them down right above his tailbone. If I'm in the middle, again, I'm dropping them right below his tailbone. I can also drop my body a little bit, suck his hands in, and then start driving my head and chest up. Again, sucking my hips in. At this point, I'm literally just walking forward and just bringing him down nice and slowly. Again, I'm giving him every opportunity in the world to post because I've locked out his spine. I have full control of the upper body. Gravity's not taking over in that situation, so he's not going to be looking to slam down. So again, no matter how we end up, I get up in here, lock those hands nice and tight, pressure, and again, we take the control once we hit the ground. So there you have 4 safe takedowns that you can practice. If you're one that's in law enforcement, I highly recommend that you give these a shot in your training so that you can use them safely out in the streets. Stay safe.